Hello, I'm Gemma and this is Non-Fic Books, and not too surprisingly, I'm somewhere else at the moment. I am down at my parents' because we celebrate Christmas early together. This year I'm actually getting to spend Christmas with my husband, which is the first time that we actually get to be alone together on Christmas Day for about 10 years, and I'm not working, which makes a really big change from the last few years. Because of that, I don't have any physical books to show you, but I will hopefully try. I've never managed to do it before, but I'll try and insert a picture or at least the title so that you can see what books I'm waffling on about. These are going to be my top 10 non-fiction books of 2015. I'm starting to do my wrap-ups because I'm not really planning on reading all that much in December. Obviously I'm down here with my family, who I don't get to see very often, so I'm going to be spending time with them. And then at Christmas and New Year's we've got some friends coming up just after Christmas until New Year's, and there's some very old school friends for both me and my husband, so reading is not going to be a priority at that point in time. So these 10 books, I didn't plan on there being 10, they just happen to be the books that are on my 2015 favourites shelf from Goodreads. I put ones as I go into there, and at the moment there happen to be 10. These are the books that I've read since June, because I only started Goodreads when I started Booktube, and that was the end of June, so these are the books. And there are 10 of them. They break down into 3 categories, and if I look down it's because I've got my notes here to try and get the titles right, and they break down into history, culture and autobiography and memoir, which surprisingly has the most books on, which is not a genre of books that I have ever read before Booktube really. They've just never appealed, so all of a sudden, whole new area for me, which is great. The first book I've talked about absolutely loads because I'm in love with Helen Castor. I think she's absolutely amazing, one of my all-time favourite non-fiction writers, and at some point when I finally finish all of her books, there's only 3, but there's one I haven't got around to reading yet, I will do an author spotlight because I've been asked about my favourite non-fiction authors, and that's the way I'd like to do them. I'm trying to read people's whole back catalogues and then make those videos, so over the next year hopefully you'll see a few of those. She-Wolves is amazing. It looks at the women that ruled England before Elizabeth, and these are women who either took control while their husbands were away at war, when their sons were too young, things like that. Really regency rather than actually ruling in their own right. They're fantastic women. Some of them are absolutely formidable and probably would scare the hell out of me if I met them in person, but they're great to read about, and Helen Castor manages to strike a really nice balance between ease of reading, accessibility and the information that she packs in. So fantastic. The next one is The Six Wives of Henry VIII by Alison Weir. Absolute classic in the genre. Tudor history has just totally got under my skin this year, and I fell in love with this book. It's about 23 years old, something like that, and she's actually in the process of updating it with more recent scholarship and all the things that have been found out in the last 20 years, because we like to think that we know everything about the Tudors, and that's just not true. So I'm really looking forward to picking up that book. There's no current publication date, but I'm going to pick it up as soon as it's out, and I will probably do a comparison between the 2 books because I think that would be really interesting. But even though she's going to be updating it, the older one is still an absolutely fantastic book, and obviously the main key facts are not going to change that dramatically, so it's still a great book if you're interested in that time period. And again, sticking with my Tudor theme for the third one, is Tracy Borman's Thomas Cromwell, the untold story of Henry VIII's most faithful servant. Tracy Borman is very well known in the kind of biography genre, but I haven't read any of her books before. And I read Wolf Hall earlier in the year and totally fell in love with it and decided I wanted to pick up a book on Thomas Cromwell. Oh, I was not disappointed. Her writing is really wonderful. It's so easy to read, but again, very informative. Can you tell that's what I like in a popular history book? I can't be doing with lacking in information books or really history light too much. These are obviously not strong academic books, but they still pack a lot of information into them, and that's what I've enjoyed so much about them. Going on to culture, Kate Fox's Watching the English, The Hidden Rules of English Behaviour was fantastic. It was so funny. Obviously I am English, and looking at the English as a whole from both the outside and the inside was really funny. I recognised myself, my friends, most of the people I know in the behaviour that she talks about in the book, and I just think if you're English you'll probably laugh your head off while you're reading it, and if you're not English you'll probably go, oh, that's what they were on about. if you read it, and overall I just recommend it to everyone. The next one is one of the most recent books I've read, and that is Michael Booth's The Almost Nearly Perfect People, Behind the Myth of the Scandinavian Utopia. I know I have discussed this quite a lot recently, and there's definitely a full review on it, so I will leave that down below because it was part of Nonfiction November 2015. But it's really entertaining. He's looking at the 5 Nordic countries and discussing both the positive points and the downsides of each of the individual countries and the differences between them. It's really entertaining. Obviously, I am not Scandinavian, so if you are and you've read this book, please leave me what you thought down below, because I can only look at it from an outsider's point of view, and I think it'd be really interesting to find out what you thought of it. The next one I got sent by the publisher, but it was absolutely fantastic. It made me laugh so much, and it's not something I would ever have really read myself. Naked at Lunch is all about nudism, and it's from someone who isn't a nudist point of view, as he goes into the world of nudism for a sort of journalistic year looking at it, and he makes me laugh so much. He's done a few other ones. There's one about weed that he's done, and again I will pick that up at some point because his writing was really entertaining. I'm not a nudist, I don't have a problem with nudism though, and I do think our attitude towards the naked body gets a bit ridiculous. It's just a naked body, and he manages to strike a really nice balance between getting involved in different nudist practices and interviewing people about their thoughts on nudism, and I thought it was a really, really great book that I probably wouldn't have picked up if I hadn't been sent it. Yes, definitely a very, very good read. On to my autobiography and memoir books. The first one is Simon Armitage's Walking Home. Simon Armitage is a very famous northern poet, and if you haven't checked out his poetry, go and have a look. There's quite a few of his him reading things on YouTube. I think his poetry read out loud with his wonderful northern accent, it just brings them alive. It's fantastic. But this is following him as he was walking along the Pennine Way as a troubadour. So he wasn't taking money, but he was swapping poetry readings for places to stay, food, and as a way to raise money. It was fantastic. It was so beautiful. I haven't done an individual review on this because he has done a second book, Walking Away, which follows him walking along a coastal path down south, I believe it is, and I'd like to get both of those and review them together to see what the differences between the two of them are, and I thought that would be an interesting look at them. So that will probably be coming up next year because it was so beautiful. I'm definitely on the lookout for Walking Away. The next one was, I've talked about loads, so I'm not going to mention too much, and that was Agatha Christie's autobiography. Oh my goodness, I just absolutely loved this book. Her voice came through so strongly. It was not perfect. There were the times it sort of jumped about a little bit, and she never really told you what year anything happened, so she talked absolutely loads, and she was only about 18 by the end of all of the chapters beforehand, and then she skipped through the bits that probably most people would want to know about when she had her breakdown and disappeared off into the hotel in Harrogate, and then the end bit she did thankfully discuss quite a lot, because as someone with an interest in archaeology, her life with Max Mallowan on the dig sites and getting involved in the archaeology was just awe-inspiring. So it was just fantastic. It's seriously entertaining. If you've read her books and you're looking for something else to read, definitely go and pick this up. And if you've read that and you want to still continue the whole lovely Agatha Christie theme, read David Suchet's Poirot and Me. It was great. It hasn't quite made my top 10, but it was a really, really entertaining book. So I do sort of highly recommend that as an extra sneaky one in there. And then finally, 2 books by Susan Hill, who I have totally and utterly fallen in love with. I have no idea why I connect with her so much, but I really, really do. I don't know whether it's because I know the places that she's talking about, or whether it's just because she also hits that sort of more countryish lifestyle that I really love. I don't know, but the 2 books are The Magic Apple Tree, A Country Year, and Howard's End is on the Landing, which is a bookish memoir, and they're both fantastic. And in the bookish one, I don't really believe that she does spoilers particularly. She talks about her emotional reaction and the things that those books remind her of. So those are my 10 books. Let me know, have you read any of them? Do you want to read any of them? If you have read them, what did you think? And what are your not necessarily top 10, but what are some of the best books you've read this year, non-fiction or fiction, because I'd be really interested to know. Please leave them down below, and hopefully I will see you soon. Bye!